Sonic, a series that's simultaneously hated and loved by millions of people. A game series where the developers are treated more like speedrunners as their games are more rushed than a Temu sweatshop worker. But there's one thing that Sonic undeniably almost always gets right, and that's its art. And its music. Now, I don't have the budget to do both, so for today's video, we're going to look at the diverse art of the many Sonic games. Most games in the series have their own unique style, for the most part. This video is going to be going over specifically the drawn art, not the 3D renders for the game. What I will use in exchange is any official art drawn by someone working on the specific game, as well as official promo animations used for the series. While I wasn't originally going to add Sonic X Shadow Generations, that's now since changed after the animated Shadow trailer, and since I'm not looking for specifically Sonic art, more so the art of the game, it's completely valid and will be used for this video. So without wasting too much of your useless time, let's find out what is the best Sonic art style. Also, I'm going to rank these on a tier list. I'm going to group the first few Sonic games together since there's not a huge difference in the actual look of the game. The more annoying thing we have to look at is the differences between the Japan, American, and European versions of Sonic. For a little history exam, Sonic's design and thus fate was sealed by New Yorkians. I know. Oshima Naoto took a trip to New York one day and sitting in Central Park decided to ask some random people what design they thought was the most appealing. Most people choosing the Hedgehog design. That was honestly the best choice since in the Americas, Sonic is loved and known by millions of people, so obviously they did something right. That being said, when the time came to actually make the game cover, they decided to change it for all versions of the game, and well, I actually like all three of the designs for the American, Japan, and European versions of the first game, but I'm gonna have to give Japan the #1 spot, with America's design being a close second. The reason I like the Japan design so much is because it's so simple. When Oshima designed Sonic, he wanted kids to be able to easily draw and recognize him. You can easily see that with the slick and flat design of him in the Japanese version. While the American design is a close second, it starts to add a bit more sass to the character while also adding more complex details. The European design, on the other hand, isn't bad, but it just doesn't fit Sonic's personality. He looks somewhat like a dickhead, and I just don't see him being like that even though Sonic is a rebellious character. With the Sonic 2 designs, we're a little luckier, since even though Sega of America made the game, the designers were still Japanese. With Sonic 2's official artwork, we have a slimmer design with sharper quills, and some of these official designs somewhat line up with what we see in Sonic CD, which looks very similar in the game's art style. Though, it looks like the CD version might be a bit taller and slimmer. It could just be the picture that's used on the wiki, I don't know. That being said, the opening for Sonic CD alone carries it to the top of the S tier list, since for the longest time it was the best Sonic design we had for years. And finally, we have Sonic 3, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this art style. We're back to having an American and Japanese and European art style, and honestly, I'm just gonna count the Japanese Sonic since it's the only one that actually really changed, quote unquote. And honestly, while it looks similar to the Sonic 2 design, I'm gonna have to give it below Sonic 2 since it didn't change too much and Knuckles just looks so ugly in this picture. I know it's the European design, but damn did they mess my boy up. With that being said, here's my current ranking for the art. We have Sonic CD being at the top of S tier, simply for the design of the animation alone. Again, this was the closest thing we had to a cool Sonic animation that was actually canon to the story. Sonic 2 will be at the top of B tier. It has really good design, nothing too crazy, but definitely a step up from Sonic 1 design, and overall looks consistent throughout. Sonic 1 falls behind a bit at the bottom of B tier. An amazing start to the look of such an iconic character, though comparing it to any of the future Sonic designs, it just lacks in a lot of style and detail. Finally, we have Sonic 3. Sorry, but it just did not innovate too much in the art style, and honestly, there's a lot of official art that just looks downright ugly. No hate to the artist either, it's obvious it's just a cultural difference, but hot damn does Knuckles' drawing not look pleasing here. C tier. I skipped some of the spin-off games because honestly they suck, and we're going to move on to the start of the 3D Sonic series. Starting with Sonic Adventure 1, we have one of the best looks for Sonic yet. This design for Sonic is honestly legendary, and to this day, if it wasn't for the countless amounts of based animation that Sega's been putting out, I would have put this and kept this at the top of S tier. Sadly, or luckily though, as we keep going, it gets harder to keep this style at the top of S tier since the Sonic games just have some really badass art styles. This is by far the most well-known version of Sonic. The green eyes, the slim design, the no care in the world expression. This is what Sonic was all about in the late 90s and early 2000s. The word rad isn't used nowadays, but it's the best word to describe this design for Sonic, not to mention how good the other characters look as well. Tails and Knuckles finally have amazing designs, and Amy's design also comes in, making her character a lot more distinct compared to her CD design, which just looks like a female version of Sonic. This is also the style that Sonic X uses, and since I'm not putting Sonic X on here because it's not a game, I'll give it a little shout out right now. I like Sonic X's design even though it's a little more cartoony than I'd like for a Japanese anime. I will say though, Sonic X is my favorite personality for Sonic. He's got a lot more character to him compared to the games, while not losing that way past cool touch. Moving on to Sonic Adventure 2, it continues the art style with almost no changes other than the shoes of Sonic. And I'm gonna say it, the soap shoes, they suck. They look weird on Sonic and clash too much with Shadow shoes. But oh my. I mean, I don't know who was in charge of making Rouge's design, but hubba, they were definitely a part of the Gooner gang. This is also the introduction to Shadow, one of my favorite Sonic characters and one of the coolest designs for any Sonic character. He has tons of differences to Sonic, while still being similar enough to be considered a parallel rival. He's the Vegeta to Sonic's Goku, the Sasuke to Naruto. Lots of weaves are about to come at me for that one. Though because it's so similar to Sonic Adventure 1, SA2 will be grouped together with Adventure 1. But just know that in my heart, SA2 takes the cake just because of Shadow.
Original the character. Do not steal.
And Batface the Rogue.
With the help of my associate, Batface the Rogue.
All the world's gems are mine.
Time for a big time skip, since after Sonic Adventure 2, they really didn't do 2D art for Sonic games. The wiki shows nothing except renders, and that's not exactly what I'm going for this video. I'm also not doing Sonic Rush in advance since it's almost the same exact art style from the adventure titles. That being said, Sonic Team outdid themselves in my opinion for the storybook series. Both Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight's art style looks so good. Starting with Sonic and the Secret Rings, we have Sonic looking a little different. He's got this cool fire spirit on his chest, and he's a bit darker than his adventure era design. He's also a little more stylized for this game, and I honestly really like that. This also starts the meta era of Sonic, where Sonic isn't as lengthy and is a little bit darker than the original design. This is also the art style that pretty much kept consistent throughout. Sonic and the Secret Rings art style is a lot less iconic compared to the Adventure series, since it's only really used in this game, and Sonic and the Secret Rings isn't known to be one of Sonic's best games. But I really like the look of the side characters. Knuckles especially looks really good in his outfit, and I kind of wish they did something more with Sonic because of it. I will say though, Darkspine Sonic does look especially cool with the storybook art style, and I consider this game to be a good middle of the road B-spot contender. Before I give it that spot though, let's look at Sonic and the Black Knight.
Merlina, every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
Sonic and the Black Knight. What a game! And honestly, I'm gonna say this, it swipes Sonic and the Secret Rings out of the water. While I still love the Secret Rings art style, Black Knight takes what Secret Rings did and added to that style so much. It almost looks 3D in a way, and maybe it is, but I'm counting it since it looks so good. And while Sonic isn't as stylized as other characters, who have this cool armor and this cool aura to them, he does have this cool glove and Excalibur. Honestly, one of my favorite designs for Sonic, and I would love an RPG style Sonic game set in this universe. I just find it so funny that in the main canon for the game, Tails is the scientist, smart guy that makes all the stuff that helps Sonic on his adventures, like the tornado or the translator in Sonic Colors, and in Black Knight, they straight up made him a blacksmith. It's small things like that that just make this style so much cooler, seeing the gang in such cool looking things in a very early European medieval look. I guess if I had to give some criticism to this style, it's less of the look of the style and more of the lack of unique designs from Blaze, Shadow, and Knuckles. They were going for a 3-Knight look, but only gave Knuckles a different design, which makes no sense. It actually makes them look a little bit weird since they're all usually seen together. I think it would have been a better design choice to give them all different designs or to keep them all looking the same rather than only making one look different. But because of how good this game's art style looks, I think it's fair to say it's deserving of the S tier. While not as iconic as the Sonic Adventure art style, I will say that this style is in my opinion one of the best. Because of that, I'm giving it the current spot of S tier. Sonic and the Secret Rings, on the other hand, isn't as stylized, but it's not bad by any means. Because of that, I think the middle of B tier isn't a bad place to put this game. Time to start speeding by some of these single game ones. No pun intended, by the way. Originally, I wasn't going to put Sonic Colors in the video since it doesn't have an official 2D art of the game. That was until I remembered Ultimate had an animated short to promote the game, so that's what I'm going to be based off of. Since it's an animation, I'm going to talk about the animation quality as well as the art style, since it's not fair to compare multiple drawings to create an animation to a single drawing that allows for more detail. If Konosuba has taught me anything, it's that not reusing frames to make an animation usually leads to funnier looking characters and more unique animation. That being said, how is Sonic Colors holding up in both the art and animation department? While I don't think the animation is bad, it's very stiff and it doesn't hold a candle to some of the animations that Sega produced after and even before the release of this game. Sonic is rocking the meta design, but in a more cartoony style. While I don't hate the art or animation, it's honestly not the best, and not as unique as some of the other games in the series. It's obvious since Ultimate was just a filler game to keep people hyped until Frontiers came out, the budget can definitely be seen within the Colors animation. I think we can all agree that this art style is good at the top of C tier. Better than European Knuckles, worse than anything we've seen so far. Here's where I'm actually going to start to piss some people off. Sonic Riders, in my opinion, is its own tier. It takes the original Sonic Adventure art style and designs that we all know and love and puts its own special twist on it. And maybe I'm a sucker for the colors, the shading on the characters, or the overzealous opening, but this art style calls to me, and it's the reason I actually decided to make this video in the first place. While the designs of the characters aren't actually that different, like Sonic just has some new glasses, it's the way that the art is drawn that makes it such a good style. This, mixed with the animation quality of the opening being some of the highest quality animation we've seen in a Sonic game, especially a spin-off game that was made back in 2006, just shows how much care was put into this style. But again, whoever's designing Rouge, you guys need to stop, it's too distracting for me. What's cool is that all of the female characters, since they have to wear clothes, all get pretty decent redesigns with all of them wearing some sort of gym outfit. Even Cream got her way into this game. The amount of redesigns and drawn characters shows the level of care that went into making this style, and it really pays off. We also get some new characters like Jet the Hawk, who honestly looks just as cool. Maybe not the best clash in colors compared to Sonic, but definitely a cool design, and it's sad we don't get to see much of Jet anymore. Knuckles here is also the best design of all of the games in my opinion. Without a doubt, this is my all-time favorite style. This is also going to piss people off. So again, this game doesn't have any official 2D art of any of the characters, and there wasn't anything to go off of the game, until Sonic X Shadow Generations got announced. 1 minute and 30 long second animation was teased, and as of writing the script, it isn't fully released. We do, however, have that minute and 30 seconds to go off of, and it's honestly really good. Now there's a few frames where I felt that Maria in particular looked really weird to me. This is more of an art style issue though, and 98% of the teaser looks really good. I'm also not too sure if this animation is using CG, since there's some scenes that look like they have some sort of modeling being done, but it's honestly so well hidden that if I didn't have to watch this animation in such detail for this video, I probably wouldn't have noticed it as much. Now I think the art style alone is worthy of a B tier, but the start of the fight at the end was done really well, and as a sucker for impact frames, I just have to push this up to being an A tier. I would have given this an S tier, but we simply don't have enough of the full animation at this time, and I don't think it's fair to put this at an S tier when we only really see a few characters. That being said, what we did see was really good and honestly just deserving of an A tier.
Not another speeding ticket. I'll fight it in court, but I don't think they're gonna accept gotta go fast as a medical condition.
Originally, I was gonna skip this since a lot of the official 2D artwork is just concept art, and I don't feel like concept art should be content. However, there's a lot of concept art for this game, and a lot of it ends up looking like the final product, aside from a few changes. While Sonic Boom did a lot wrong, it did give new and unique looks to all of the characters, and we can see that with Knuckles looking like a Left 4 Dead tank, Tails looking like Ratchet, Amy looking like, well, like Amy, but cooler, and Sonic having, blue arms. What the fuck? I'm honestly a fan of the Sonic Boom art style. While I don't think it should be the official art going forward, and obviously there's a reason they did not continue it going forward, I think the overall look of the characters and art style that they went with the concept art is really cool. I honestly wish we got more games in the Sonic Boom universe, obviously a little less puzzly and more speed focus. I will say though, because there's not a lot of art on this style, I don't feel right giving it higher than a C tier. I'm not a huge fan of Knuckles' design, and Sonic in the artwork itself looks a bit strange, even though in the game he looks totally fine. But I will say, this game is 100% deserving of the top of C tier. Probably one of the most well-known Sonic art styles is that of Sonic Mania, with it bringing back the OG Sonic art style while also expanding on it with the animations. Let's start with the art style. I mean, do I need to even explain myself? This is by far the best looking 2D design. Sonic looks fresher than ever and even has a slightly lighter design. Both Knuckles and Tails have, in my opinion, their best 2D designs yet, and it's obvious that the team knew the direction that they wanted the style to go in. The animation, on the other hand, is where the simplistic art style designs turn into masterclass level drawings. The colors, the expressions, the love and care put into the game was just so intense, this blows the CD animation out of the water. Don't get me wrong, Toei had some good ideas with the CD animation, but the colors, the charm, and the vibes that Sonic Mania put into the hearts of many new and old Sonic fans cannot be beaten. I have no qualms with saying this is the best 2D Sonic art style we've gotten, and probably the best we'll ever get. Before I get ahead of myself though, I do want to say that I'm also going to give Origins the S tier rank since his art style is very similar to Mania. I think the official drawn art for Mania is better, but I think the overall animation for Sonic Origins looks better. So it's not really fair to put one above the other because I think the official designs for the characters look better in Mania, with the exception of the animation, which Sonic Origins simply has more detail and overall quality to it. I will say that the Mania style is cuter and has a lot more expression, which is why I'm so stuck on where to actually put these two games. Honestly, I think I'm gonna put Mania ahead simply because Origins was just a remake of games and Mania is its own thing. Mania also has Mania Adventures, which was a short animated series that fleshed out some of the characters more and built the world. We also got to see more of the animation style, which just has so much flair and style to it that I'm gonna have to give Sonic Mania the advantage here. And last, but certainly not least, Sonic Frontiers. Now, we only have a few pictures and one animation to go off of, but this is the first time in a while that Sonic Team created such a beautiful animation with amazing quality. We have the Knuckles prequel showing us how he ended up getting to the island in the first place, and it starts off pretty sad, showing us how alone Knuckles is, and how he's okay with that. He gets to do things his way while exploring the ancient ruins of his people. Finding any exploits in his defense is the way he passed his days. While the design of Knuckles in this animation is nothing more than a more detailed Sonic Adventure style Knuckles, the background art is where this art portion of this style shines. The green of the plants and the gray of the ancient ruins match together really well, and the design of the area is honestly very visually pleasing. The animation that goes along with his exploration is also very smooth, and you can tell they did not cut corners with the animation. When we finally get to the fight scene, we have a very smooth combat style animation, and even a good old fashioned impact frame that you just know I love. This animation is honestly really nice and looks really good, but I will have to dock points. Not because of anything bad, rather the style of the art isn't as stylized as other versions of Sonic. Not just that, but this animation is the only time we see this type of art in the entire game. We do have some official 2D art to go with, as well as some from the art book, and honestly, this is where I start to give points in. The style of this picture is honestly what I love. The shading on the characters, the seriousness in the characters' expression. Once you play the game and understand why they're so serious, you'll find a newfound love for this art piece. The final piece of art is the nail in the coffin to put this at the top of A tier. Here, we have Sonic with his arm corrupted during one of the Starfall events. This is honestly what put it to the top of A tier for me. While Sonic's design is a bit cartoony, the shading and colors of this art piece are absolutely amazing. While the animation is good and the art is amazing, the actual design of the characters and style of the art itself is a bit on the bland side, and that's Sonic bland, meaning it's an S tier literally everywhere else except for this tier list, since there's so many other amazing art styles that Sonic Team has messed around with. If you don't agree with the top of A tier and you think it should be S tier or even lower at B tier, comment down below and tell me how wrong I am. Sonic does not miss when it comes to art styles. There's really not a bad art style for Sonic, and I didn't even go over the comics. Speaking of comics, if you want me to go over them, feel free to drop a comment down below. I want to also mention that I have 99-cent memberships, and if you have some pennies laying around, it would help my channel out a lot. If you have no money to spare for little old Isan, a like and a comment would be hella based. And again, thank you for watching.